Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Decryption, and I hope you are well. Do you remember in games, the old school platforming games like Spongebob or Animaniacs or many of the others, where you always went to these areas and there was a big gate or a box or a door or some type of level transition with a padlock on it saying you need this amount of items to get. SpongeBob had spatulas where you couldn't get to other areas until you had the spatulas. Animaniacs had the Edgar trophies. I believe Scooby-Doo had mystery clues or something like that. So many games have this functionality. Even Grand Theft Auto, the HD era ones, had areas that were locked off until you completed a set amount of missions or a specific quest unlocked it. So in today's tutorial, we're going to look at adding this functionality into our game in a really nicely generic way. So let's get started. So, I've already set my scene up. If you've watched any of the other videos, you've seen I've got this massive dock with this city over here, which needs some rework. And then I originally started this entire series over here in this Elven era. And I need a way to travel between this. Now, I haven't got swimming set up yet, and I'm, in 50-50 figuring out whether I want swimming or if I just want to kill the player like GTA Vice City or something does. But for now, I need a boat to get to and fro there. But I don't want you being able to get on this boat until I'm ready for you to get on the boat. The game needs to tell you you're ready. So what I've done is, the part where you get on and off the boat here, I've blocked off. I've got a basic, I don't even know where it is. It's like a blockade thing here. And then inside it, I've added this very big box there. And it's just basically a blocking volume, so I can't get into it. If I can get around it, nothing will happen. I'll just stand on the boat, really. But that's the point of it. It blocks you from getting to the area. You might have it blocking a bridge. You may have it blocking just a general doorway. You could have it blocking a door here so you can't get in or out of it. It's entirely up to you. The only difference with mine is I've got a guard stood there. Because I figured instead of it just being blocked, I'll just have a guy there who just ever so often will mention something to you. I haven't got the randomization part set up where he may or may not say something, so he kind of says something every single time. But it still works and it's alright. So you can see I'm in the game, and if I try to walk over here, I can't get past.
The
Same
ferry
here.
is
And he'll
unfit
talk
for
to me.
passage,
Thank you, Elven.
whether by
Thank you,
fate
Elven
or
Guard. But you can see
failure,
I can't
it
get
shall
over
not
it.
carry
I can
you
even
this
try
day.
running, and I actually missed it earlier. Let's see if I can get this. Yeah, see, you can't even get up there. I completely blocked it off, which is what I want. When the game starts, there is a chance you may start over here, depending which scenario you pick. But either way, you're going to kind of land here, and it's going to block it off so you can't get back. And that's what this blocker for is here, so you can't. So let's start straight away by creating a generic blueprint to handle all blockers of scenarios. This may be for travelling across areas. It may be a caves block because you need to, get some dynamite or something. It could be anything. So I'm going to come into my content drawer, inside my blueprints folder, and I will just go into my MISC folder because I really don't know where to put it yet. And I'm going to create a new folder inside here, AreaBlockage. And inside here, I'll create a new blueprint class, and I'll set it to a type of actor, but I'm going to call it BPA for Blueprint Abstract, and I'll call it I'll just call it AreaBlockage again, and I'll open it up. Now, you might be thinking, why have we called it abstract? If a class is not abstract, and this is programming in general, you can drag it out, you can do whatever you want with it. But I'm not going to have one type of blockage. There's going to be many different types with different meshes. So I'm going to instead open this up, and I'm going to go to class settings and mark it as abstract here. And what this means is you can't drag it out anymore. So if I drag it out, look, it will say you can't do that, which is perfect. It won't let us spawn it in either. So in order to use this, we have to right click on it and create a child blueprint. So I will call this AreaBlockage _ travel port blockage. So it's a blocked port, and I'll open that up. Now inside here, I'm just going to come and add my static mesh, which is this one here. So I believe this is from the Polygon Goblin War Camp, if anybody needs it. And then I'll add it in like that. I'm going to come and disable the collision on it. And mainly, that's because I'm going to surround it with an even bigger collision. And there's no point in modifying this one's collision, because then it's just going to look a bit silly if I need it to be that specific shape. Maybe later on in the game you can climb over one of them. So I'm just going to lay this out like so. Make it nice and big so the character can't climb on it either. make sure it's only in the front of it, like so. And now, if I right-click on that and do replace selected actor with, I can select my area blockage travel port. And boom, the colour pattern of it's changed, so I'll come and select the same material as well. I just put a lighter material on it, that's all right. There we go. And that's now blocked the same way it was before, so you can't jump over it, which is perfect. So now that we've got a nice generic blueprint, we can actually start making it check if it needs to be blocked. So for example, when the game starts, maybe you don't have that area blocked and then it blocks later. So say you have a quest where you need to plant some dynamite in a spider's nest. You plant the dynamite, it blows up, then you can't access it afterwards. Maybe you have some repeatable blockages, so you're friendly with a faction, it's unlocked, you're unfriendly, it's blocked, but at any moment you can, change it. So that's why we set it as a blueprint, so we've got more control over it. So in order to store which areas are unlocked or not, I'm actually going to come and add it into my game instance. So I've got my game instance called GI main here. And if you haven't got a game instance, it's super easy to do. Just go into your blueprints folder, right click blueprint class, and just search for game instance, and just select game instance. Then in edit project settings, and maps and modes, just make sure you set it there. And a game instance is special because as soon as you start your game up, the game instance loads. And then it never reloads itself throughout your entire game until you quit it. So it's great for when you're transitioning across different levels because it can always retain the data. And in my case, I want to retain which levels are unlocked. So I'm going to store it in the game instance. So what data type are we going to use? So I don't necessarily want to store the entire blueprint because if I change a level, that blueprint's no longer going to exist. So we could do booleans, or we could do some type of number sequence. However, absolutely perfect use case, gameplay tag. We're going to store gameplay tags, one tag per blockage, to say whether it's unlocked or not. And then if it's stored in the game instance, it's unlocked. Equally, if you're thinking you may have a lot of them, you could flip it around and do locked blockages, and then if they're not in there, it's unlocked. Either way, I'm just going to store the ones in here which are unlocked. So I'll add a new variable inside here called unlocked areas. And you'll notice that I'm not specifically calling it travel or travel boats or anything like that. I'm doing areas as a generic because then I can reuse this for everything. It's not just limited to my specific scenario. And then I will set this to a type of gameplay tag container. And there's actually two ways you can do it. You could either use a gameplay tag container like I'm going to, and all this one does is allow you to select multiple tags at once. Equally, you could use a single gameplay tag and make it an array. I'm going to stick with a container because it's a lot lighter to save. You've just got one variable instead of an array of variables. But also, I can now use a very nice querying part. So for example, just to show you, we will do it in a moment. If I drag it out, if I had an array, I'd have to loop over it and see if it contains a gameplay tag. Or I could use the contains, maybe. However, if I've got just a container, I can do a query to match any tags like so. So I can do a make gameplay tag query, and then I can query that specific container to basically ask it a question. Does it have this gameplay tag? And in this case, if I make this in tags, I can now check for a specific tag and say, does the cancel action exist on the UI in this tag at all? It doesn't matter if it's got 1, it doesn't matter if it's got 1,000, it will check it and query it for us, which is perfect. So now that we've got that, we need a way to push into it, push out, and do all sorts of. So on my game instance, I've actually got an interface to easily jump to it without having to cast to it everywhere. So if you've never created an interface before, super simple, just right click, blueprint, interface, just like that. And then inside here, I'll add a function and I'll call it isAreaUnlocked, and that'll tell me that's going to output a boolean to whether it's unlocked or not. But we need to pass in the area we're looking for. So I'll also pass in a tag, and it'll be just a standard gameplay tag, not a container. If you're ever thinking that you may have to query multiple things at once for some reason, like 3 areas at once, you could use a container or an array again. I am just going to put this into a category of unlocked areas because it'll make it a bit neater. And then I'll add one more function of toggle area. I'll drag it up into there. And the reason I'm calling it toggle is, again, I'm going to pass in a tag, but I'm also going to pass in a boolean of whether we need to add it or remove it. Because you could, of course, just check if it's in there, but if you've got a mistake in your somehow, for some reason, and you could just check if the tag already exists and remove it, but if you've got 2 quests that are running that both unlock an area, you've got a safety check if they both pass in true, because it's not going to add it twice. So it makes it a little bit nice. And then the outputs, do we need the output? No, I don't think we need any output on that one. You can return the list of gameplay unlocked areas if you really want to. I don't think I've got a scenario where I need the full list of them. I'll just check one by one. So I can compile and save that and allow it through Perforce. There we go. And then back on our game instance, I've now got my interfaces drop down and I've got my unlocked areas. So toggle area, this is as simple as adding a branch to it. And if it's true, then I'm going to get the unlocked areas and I'm simply going to call add gameplay tag. And the tag I want to add is this one here, connected up. However, if it's false, because we need to remove it, then I can simply come and remove gameplay tag. If you, for some reason, need to check whether a tag has been successfully removed or not, you can add a bit output to this and export it. So maybe it'll be useful for a quest. I don't know. That's up to you and what you think you're going to have. And then the next one, I'm actually going to cut this code with Rotorboard, but I'll go over it shortly. And I'll go into is area unlocked, and I'll drag that up there just for now. Paste our code in, and I've just changed this over to make gameplay tag from container, because we need to pass in a multitude of tags. Exists inside our unlocked areas, then really I'm just going to return true, just like that. So we come in, make gameplay tag container from tag. It'll allow you to pass in the single tag. If any of them match the any tags in here, so do any of the tags match that specific tag, so does it exist, then return true or false. And now I can hit compile and save. So now we've got our 2 ways of adding tags and removing them, and we've also got a way to check if an area is unlocked. However, whilst we're here, one other thing we can do just to make this really nice is if we start the game and check on event begin play if this is unlocked, great, it works. But what if you complete a quest in the middle of the game? This is not going to recheck. So we need a way to tell this when we've unlocked an area, check if you're allowed to be unlocked. So back in our game instance, I'm going to come and create an event dispatcher here. And don't worry, event dispatchers are super easy. So just add a new one of on area unlock. I'm going to add an input of the tag that's been unlocked. And I'll set it to gameplay like so. And I'm just thinking, since we can lock and unlock it, I'm actually going to rename this to on area change. And that could be whether it's locked or unlocked. But because we're doing that, I'm going to add another parameter, unlock. And I'll set it to a boolean. So there's only 3 steps to make an event dispatcher. Step 1 is to create the event dispatcher. Step 2 is to call the event dispatcher, which says run this. So in our event graph on our toggle area, on area changed, I'm going to drag off, hold controller, and it'll say call. So I'll connect that up. The tag is going to be this tag here. And is it unlocked? Yes, because we're adding it. But then I'll also paste it down here, connect it up again. This tag is going to a lot of places. And is it unlocked? No, because we've just removed it. And I'm going to wrap this in a nice little comment saying add/lock area. There we go. And now we've got our second way of our event dispatcher. Now the only third way is to actually add something into it, or bind it's called. Binding to the event dispatcher. And all that basically does is say, bind to this event dispatcher. If anything calls this event dispatcher, tell me about it. That's really it. So we'll do that part now. So if I jump back into my parent for my AreaBlockage here, in the event begin play, the first thing I'll do is I want to check if this area should be locked or not. So in event begin play, let's join to our event dispatcher. So whilst we did create an interface to easily call the others, unfortunately, event dispatchers cannot be called over interfaces, which sucks, and I really wish they could be, but never mind. So what I'm going to do is get my game instance, and then from here, I'm just going to cast to my GI main. And now I know a lot of people think casting is bad, and it is in some scenarios. However, our game instance is always available anyway. Not everything casts to it, but it's always stored in memory. So all we're doing is just getting access to it, so it's okay. It's not that bad. The interface just, gives us a nicer way to not have to cast to it. It's just right there. So now that we've casted to it, let's bind onto the event dispatcher. So I will do bind to area unlocked. There you go. There's the event dispatcher we created. Now a nice easier way of doing this, which just saves you a little bit of time, is instead of binding, we do assign, which is just the exact same thing, except it just creates the event for you. That's it. It's just a tiny little shortcut. Nice and easy. So now we've done the third part, we've connected to the event dispatcher. So what do we want to do? If we are unlocked, first thing we'll do is check if this tag equals this blockage's gameplay. So I'm just going to promote this to a variable and call it area tag. I'll make it instance editable with the eyeball, and I'll compile and save. So if it's true, then we are checking the correct one, because we don't want to be running our unlock code for this when everything's changed. We only want to run it if this specific area changes. Next, we'll add another branch in for the unlocked, and if it's false, we'll just not do anything. So on here, if it's true, then this area has been unlocked. I'm going to create a function called unlock area, and I'll create another function called lock, pretty much. Then I will call unlock area on true and lock area on false, like so. And I'll hit compile and save. Now that we've done that, the only other thing we need to do is actually just check this on begin play as well. So I'm going to drag this across a little bit, and then just like we set up earlier, I'm going to add the game instance in, and I'm going to check our is area unlocked interface. I will pass in our area tag and add a branch. But I am noticing that we're doing the exact same thing here than we are down here. We're checking unlocked and calling these two codes. We're checking unlocked and we're going to call the same thing. So I'm actually going to come and cut this branch and the two switches here, paste it down here and add a custom event called check unlock. And then I will just drag the branches condition into the event to just create one like that. And then after all of this, I can now drag in our check unlocked to the true and then just simply pass in the condition. And that means I can now copy this and do the same thing here. There we go. So this first section will check on load or begin play if the area should be locked. Should area be locked? And then this section will check while the game runs. Check for area changes. And now you might be thinking, but we've just created two functions that they're doing nothing. And yeah, they are. So let's populate them with some basic stuff for what they can do. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to come and do set actor hidden in game. So unlock area, they are hidden. And then on the lock area, I'm going to do the opposite and just call hide. But now the benefit of this way is we can come to the child that we've created, and because we've set those functions in the parent, we can come and override them if we need to. So say if I come and override the unlock area function here, I'll let it call the parent. If you've lost that node, simply right click on the function and do add call to parent. Then I can do more specific stuff. For example, I can take the box in, and even though we've hidden it from the game, that might not stop the collision. So I will also set the collision enabled to no collision. And I will copy that and do the same thing by overriding the lock area. And I'll set that to collision enabled, and hit compile and save. So we can technically give this a try now. So if I try it now and run up, you will see we're blocked out. We can't get in. However, if we actually come and assign a gameplay tag to it and add it in, we can successfully be able to get through it. So I'm going to come to my area tag here, and I'm just going to click the plus icon, and let's do, I'll do areas.travel.elven custom to elven home. That's very, very specific to my game lore, but that's okay. This is the elven custom zone that I really need to find a better name for, and it goes to the elven home. And it's a travel area, but you can call yours anything you want. Cave, name of your city, anything. And I'll set the source and click add new gameplay tag, and I'll tick it. So now you can see that's assigned it to this. If you try the game again, it'll be the exact same scenario. It will still say you cannot access. There you go. I still can't get in. But if I come to my game instance now, and on my unlocked areas tag flag here, if I come and add that area, like so, compile and save, you will see we now should be able to run through it without a problem because the area is unlocked. In fact, it shouldn't even be there. So now you can see it's unlocked, the area's gone, he's still talking, but we'll ignore him for now. And because my boat's collision is off, I can't actually get further. But it has indeed unlocked us through, which is perfect, exactly what we want. So that's all good. We've got a way to now detect whether or not we can get through this area during gameplay. However, how do we actually toggle these then? So in the beginning, I said we were going to look at 2 different ways of doing this, at least I'm pretty sure. So first thing I'm going to do is just come and make sure this area is locked again. We don't want it. Compile and save. So now that'll be locked when we play the game. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a super basic quest in. That just shows that if you complete a certain quest or dialogue or whatever, I might do dialogue, it's easier for me. If you complete a certain quest or dialogue, you get access to an area. So this could be you talk to the royal prince and he gives you a pardon. It could be you complete a specific quest, say, you save Sweet from the ballers after he's been shot, you unlock a specific area, stuff like that. So I'm going to make it so if I talk to this shopkeeper, that's all I have to do, it's not permanent. I talk to him, he will give me access to that area. Now for this, I am technically using narrative quest and dialogue, now renamed to narrative tales. However, the actual code you will run is completely generic. So, all I'm going to do is come and edit his dialogue, and I'll say that if you get the quest to help him, we unlock that area. That's all I'm going to do. So, typically I would create a narrative event for this, which I will do in a moment to show any narrative users how to do it, but equally I can double click on it and add code. So all I'm going to say is at the end of this node, so after he's finished speaking, I want to give the user access to that port now. They unlock that area. So, just like we said, I'm going to get the game instance. Then I'm going to toggle area, plug it into the false. The tag will be our new area that we want, that one. And add, yes, I do want to add it, it's unlocked. I really should have called that unlocked, actually. Let's go and quickly do that now, because it makes more sense to keep the same terminology rolling. So we're not adding it, we're unlocking it. So on our BPI game instance, I'm just going to rename it to unlock. There we go. Just because then it's the same terminology everywhere and it just makes it a lot easier. So untick that, and that's all you need to do. You just need to call that 2 nodes. That's it. For you narrative dialogue people, for you narrative users, all we're going to do is come and create a narrative event. And you may already be 50 steps ahead of me because it's so easy. Create a narrative event, any toggle area, and I'll open it up. I'll override the function execute event. I'll get the game instance. Then I will toggle the area. And then I will promote these 2 to variables. So we can pass it in and out and reuse it really nice. So the tag, I'll promote to a variable. Call it anything you want. So area tag. And I'll promote the unlock to a variable as well. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We can come to class settings to make it a bit neater. So I'll call the name toggle area. Locks or unlock an area in the world. And then I will also, just for niceness, override get graph display text. I'll delete this off. And I'll just append onto this a select, like so. And I'll connect the boolean to it. If it's unlock, then we will say unlock. If it's B, meaning false, we're not locking it, we'll just call it lock. And I'll put a space here, area. And then I'll put another space after, and then just put the gameplay tag in. I'll drag off the tag and do get tag name. And I'll just connect it into there. And all that's going to do is just give us a nice display in narrative. And then back on our dialogue or your quest anywhere, I'll add the event toggle area, and you can see we now have a tag. So I'll say for this one, I want to unlock the tag Oven Custom, and I want to unlock it. I only want to do it at the end, and refire on load, yeah. Compile and save. Unlock area, blah, blah, blah. And now, ladies and gentlemen, if I start the game, that area will be locked. If I talk to him, that area from our event dispatcher will now be unlocked. So you can see, it's locked, I can't get through. Let's talk to him. Yes, I have come to see your wares. Do you need any help? Sure, I can help. And then, area is now unlocked. Ta-da! There we go. That's how you do it quest style. Ignore him. So like GTA San Andreas, GTA Vice City, they're very common that way. You do a certain quest, it unlocks the area. Now, we're going to look at what if you have another trigger. Say you have some money unlock, or that's how you want to do it. Old school platformer style. Now, this one isn't going to be as generic to talk about. I will try my best to show you how to do it, mainly because every single game is going to be different. It entirely depends where you're storing it, how you're handling it. But the key thing is you're going to have one area that stores the quantity of hamburgers, underpants, spatulas, Edgar trophies, clues, anything. Or you're going to have an array. You're going to have something. You're not going to spread it around the game trying to loop over it every time. So for me, my currency, at least, is stored in my inventory, which at least in my game is in my player state, and it's in my narrative inventory component here. And on here, there is an already built-in event dispatcher that we've done where I can do it when currency is changed. So just like we did on the game instance, if you've got an integer of current unlockable thing, just create a function that lets you edit that and then simply tell it to call the event dispatcher exactly how you need. That's all you need. So what I'm going to do with this code is now I can come back to my specific blockage. So in this case, let's change this one and say there's two ways. You can either talk to him or you have another way you can get around it. So on the child version, we're not going to do this on the parent because not every single one can be unlocked by currency. If yours can, great. So we'll say in this one, on the event begin play where we do the normal checks, check if it's unlocked, stuff like that. What I'm also going to do is get my player pawn, or in this case, get access to my variable that I'm checking. So I'll get my inventory component. Then I'm going to bind or assign, like we said earlier, to my event dispatcher, in my case, on currency changed. Then I'm going to say, if the new currency is more or equal to, we'll do both. And then I will promote this to a variable, currency unlock. And then this can be dispatched as anything you want, like I say. We'll connect this condition up to it, just like so. And then we're going to do the exact same thing we did on the event dispatcher for the player. We're going to simply get the game instance. Then we're going to call toggle area. We want it unlocked because we've got a specific amount. And then the tag, I will just drag off and do get like so. What you can also do, actually, just a nice little improvement, I'm going to connect this boolean to the unlock instead, like so. You may not want this. You may want it that you keep the branch. If you're over it, it unlocks it. That's it. For me, if your currency goes up or below this amount, it unlocks it, is something you can do. But to be fair, I don't like that idea for this game. So I'm going to change it back to the original way. If you want it to say only rich people can enter this area, so if your currency ever goes below 1 million, can't get in. If it's above 1 million, you can get in. Then just don't have the branch, just connect that in. So it's every time your currency changes, it's checking if you're allowed in. For me, as soon as you get the right currency, boom, you're allowed in. That's it. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. So now, if I come and set in here the currency to 50, then you'll see when we play it, we won't be allowed in because we don't have 50 currency. There we go. But if I come and use my cheat code, which is motherload, it's just disappeared because I have just gotten 10,000 coins. And now we can access the area just like that. How cool is that, ladies and gentlemen? Now, there is one more thing we need to just do on that one. By default, I have 20 currency. If I set this to be 5 and start the game, you'll see it won't unlock because it's not running the check yet. So back on our child here, where we're checking the currency there and toggling it, we also need to do the exact same thing on load. So if I just come over here and get my currency, I can then basically do the same check. So I'll actually cut all of this. I'll add another event down here called check currency, and I'll add it in. I'll connect the branch to it, and I'll connect the in currency like so. So we'll call that in currency. And then I can put this check currency on both of these like so. The new currency like so. And then I can also do the same on game load. You may want it that only some of these will contain the currencies. You can also check if the in currency is 0, don't do anything. But for me, that's okay. But you'll see this time, this is set to 5. I start with 20. It should automatically be unlocked as soon as I start the game. There we go. Automatically unlocked. How cool is that, ladies and gentlemen? It's coming along very, very nicely. And you might be thinking, but Decryption, surely this is done by now. I present to you, there's 2 more small things we can do. So firstly, if we start the game and the area is unlocked, or at any point we unlock the area, the guard still tells us it's locked, which isn't great. That's not what we want. So there are a couple of ways we can handle this. We can basically tell the guard to be destroyed after it's unlocked or hidden, whatever we want. The other way we can handle it, at least for my instance, is on my dialogue for this, not that guard, for this guard, I've actually added 2 versions of the dialogue. One saying it's unlocked and one saying it's locked, not locked. There. So I've got a different one. So what I can do on my dialogue plugin I've got is actually add a condition to these to say only play this if this is true, only play this if this is. So in this case, only play if this area is locked is what we're going to do. So if you need to check if something's locked, we've already got all that code. So I'm going to come back to my narrative conditions folder. I'll create a new narrative condition called NC is area unlocked, and I'll open it up. Now all this is going to do, if we override check condition, is we need to return a boolean to whether it's unlocked or not. So I will simply get the game instance. I will use our is area unlocked function from the interface, and I'll connect the unlocked to the true like so. I'll promote the tag to a variable like so, and then I don't need to worry about the not aspect of it because narrative takes care of all of that. So in the class settings, I'll just say is area unlocked, and then I will also override the get graph display text to do the same thing as this on the event, but instead of checking if it is, all it's going to do is say is area, and then the area will be our gameplay tag, which will be this one, and then instead of the unlocked there, I'm going to put a not. I'm going to put the not aspect here, so there's a get not there, which is built into narrative, as I've just said. Plug that into the return value is area, and then we'll put a space here, so area port, and then if it's not, then it'll be locked, otherwise it will be unlocked. And if I hit compile and save on that, back on my dialog on here, I can add a condition, is area unlocked, and you'll say is area non-unlocked, so we'll add a tag. The tag we want is our Elven custom. Is that unlocked? I will copy this, paste it into the other one, and you'll see if it's unlocked, it will say it's unlocked. If we tick not, it'll say is it. And that's it. That's all I need to do. So if I now run the game again, and the port will unlock itself, the guard will now say, there we go. And it'll keep talking. How cool is that, ladies and gentlemen? Now the final thing I'm going to show you how to do, just because if we're going old school for like Animaniac SpongeBob, they do cutscenes to show you when something's unlocked, which I think will be really cool for us to do. So all I'm going to do is on the specific blockage here, because I don't want everyone to do it, I'm going to add a sequence to unlock, an unlock sequence, and it'll be a type of level sequence. Now we don't want the player, we just want the level sequence, and I'm also going to set it to a soft object reference, and we'll hit compile and save. Then back on my landscape here, I will just come to the top and I will add a level sequence. Have I got a sequences folder? So I'll create a new sequences folder, and inside here, I will call it ls for level sequence underscore Elven custom to Elven home unlock. And there we go. We've got a nice little sequencer. I'm not going to go over how to use the sequencer because that could be a different tutorial. Let me know below if you want a sequencer tutorial. But all I'm going to do is add a camera, a dynamic camera, position it where I want it to be, and then this is where you could play some specific animation if you want. I'm just going to set the time to seconds. So I'll say for 2 seconds it'll play that, and we'll limit it to wherever that is, like so. Super dead simple one. Now if we select this model and just drag it into our cutscene like so, we can add, well, really anything you really want. We can add a transform to it. I'll fix it at the start. I'll drag, I don't know, 0.25. I'll rotate it a little bit. I'll add the keyframe. I'll move another 0.25. I'll do it again. The other side. We're just basically making it wobble backwards and forwards, really. You can do anything you want at this point. You make it jump up and spin. Yeah, let's do that. So I'll just keep keyframing it. Then I will make it shrink down as it goes back. Then I will make it jump up in the air and then distort itself to 1.25 so it's a bit taller so it looks like it's jumped. And then I'll make it spin in the air, I don't know, like almost 360. And we'll hit scale again. And then finally we can just reset it back to everything it needs to be. So I'll just copy the initial keyframes, paste it at the end there. So it's back where it needs to be. But then we can also just add an event track to it of a trigger. Right at the end, I'll add a keyframe. We can simply drag off of it and call unlock area, like so. And then in theory, that should now unlock it. So if we play the animation, you should see it will go bounce, 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 jump up, and then, you know, failure to spin massively because it's only doing the short distance. If you know the sequence as curves better, you can probably make it do something. And then back on our area blockage, you'll see I can now assign the ls Elven home level sequence. I'll set that back to 0. I'll set that to 100 so we don't unlock it directly. Then on the area blockage where we want to run that is on toggle area. When we unlock it, so I'll add a branch to check this as well. If it's true, because we've unlocked it, then all I'm going to do is drag in the level sequence and call async load asset. Connect it to true. I will resolve this directly below to make sure this loads it into memory and this gets it. Then on completed, I will simply do create level sequence player, pass in the level sequence to it, and simply call play on the return value. It's very common to have a specific function to do all of this, so it also locks your player down and everything. I haven't got that in my game, so I'm just going to ignore it for now. This time, you'll see if we play it, we should now have a bouncing gate, and then it should remove itself. Obviously, we're not an animation channel, not yet, maybe one day, and we are semi-rushing through the cutscene. We're not spending a time doing it. So you can see it's all there. Mother load, it bounces, jumps up, spins, and then explodes. And now it is all unlocked. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. That is, I've lost count at this point, so many different ways and techniques that you can use an unlockable area. So now you can lock off areas of your area so people can't get to it. In my case, I've got a currency way and I've got a dialogue/quest way. Depending which game you want, you may want both. Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I hope this has helped. If you've got any improvements, please let me know below. What are you going to use this for? What areas are you going to block off and how are you unlocking them? Let me know below. Thank you for watching. My name is Decryption and I will see you next time.